Welcome to Brightfix. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing the 2018 horror movie, psychological thriller, whatever, called Cam, which is directed by Daniel Goldhaber or Goldhaber,
Mm.
and it stars Madeline Brewer, and it's written by Issa Mazai,
Yeah, Mazet.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were both talking about this before that we watched this film quite a while ago. So I hope we can remember things. But I think we can because I think this is the second time I've seen this film. And again, I've said this before where I've been like, I only remember that I've seen a film as the scenes are happening. I don't remember what happens
Right.
next. I don't know anything. All I know is as the scenes happen, I go, I know this, I know that, I know that. So it did feel like watching the film again, which is great.
Yeah, yes, I'd never heard of this before until it just randomly popped up on my Netflix suggested kind of thing. And I had no idea that this was quite like when this came out, like there was a bit of buzz around it.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I'd never even heard of it. So like just kind of your initial thoughts, like what did you think of the movie? Were you down with it? Were you not down with it? Have I forced you to watch a film that you did not enjoy?
Well, I think if you said on paper, we're going to be watching a horror film about cam girls, and that's what this film is about. It's not about a person called Cam, which I did think it was at the beginning. It's about the phenomenon of cam girls, and it follows a character called Alice, and she goes by Lola, who is the cam girl name, and she's essentially just trying to climb the ranks of this cam girl site, and she does that by acting out kind of more and more extreme scenarios. The people in her chat love it. She just tries different things to try and get up the rankings, and she realizes that shock value works really well, and you get these digital tips if you do weird things. So she ends up like even right at the beginning of the film, like faking slitting her throat and all this stuff. And she does start to do well, and so she is climbing the ranks. She's starting to make some good money, and she wakes up one morning. I'm going to do a really quick summary. She wakes up one morning and she is locked out of all of her accounts. She cannot get back onto the camgirl site. This is her income. She was doing really well and she freaks out. After a lot of kind of trying to figure out what happened and calling the camgirl site, she actually finds that she, in quotes, is live while she's locked out of the account. So obviously you'd expect that somebody else is using the account, but when she looks at it, it's actually her, spitting image of her, acting out some more of these extreme scenarios which were helping her in the rankings. And she very quickly realizes that these aren't recordings of previous cam videos that she has done. These are new things, and this doppelganger or whatever this is acting out things that she would not have felt comfortable doing. She has a few rules as to what she will do and what she won't, and this person is doing those things. I think one of them was like talking about her family, saying I love you, and I think there was another one, but
Not faking her orgasms.
not faking her orgasms. Yeah, there we go. So
Yeah.
that like she had these rules, and this person totally disregarded that. And the film essentially follows Alice or Lola trying to figure out what has happened and trying to get people to believe that it's not her. I don't know if I want to explain the ending, or do we just talk about that?
You can too.
I
Go for
mean,
it, yeah.
because this is something that, yeah. So it essentially ends that Alice realizes that the doppelganger doesn't know she's a doppelganger. She tricks her into a private chat, and when she pops up, the doppelganger doesn't react, doesn't know that she's looking at herself. And so when Lola realizes that, she decides that she is going to try and force this thing to see itself and recognize that it's not her. So she puts together this game in which she asks to go live with Lola, and her fans love it because they're like, oh, this is so cool. Two of the same person. How are they doing that? Oh my God, they're both live. This is really weird. And they start betting with each other to do more and more violent, gruesome things. The doppelganger Lola tells the other one, the real one, to, I don't know how she said, like smack her face on the table, and she does it, and it's horrible. But all of the fans love it. They're giving her loads of tips. She's climbing up the ranking. And at one point, if I get this right, Lola, the real one, sets up a mirror behind her and makes it so that the other Lola can see herself through the chat. And I don't really know how it ends in terms of like what actually happens to it, but I think like seeing the doppelganger seeing itself sends it into like a bit of a meltdown, I suppose. And she wins. Lola wins the game of like who can get the most, I don't know if it's likes, or I can't remember if it was
Yeah, I think
money
Lola says, so Lola to the doppelganger, I think she makes some kind of bet or something. If I win, then I get my password back or something.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, because Lola wins, and I think she gets the most. I mean, so Alice wins, she gets the most tips or whatever. And then the bot DMs Lola the password, and then Lola, sorry, I'm getting confused. The
Yeah, well,
real
she
one,
goes
yeah,
in and deactivates her account and
yeah, yeah,
starts fresh.
yeah,
There's lots I want to talk about that, but going back to what I was saying when you asked me the question, so that's the film. If you told me that we were doing a horror film about cam girls, I would have been like, I don't know. I think it's gonna be is a hypersexualization of women. It's gonna be really, obviously a little bit sexist and just totally male orientated.
sure, sure,
And
sure.
this film is the opposite of that in my eyes. I think
Yeah,
that this film, it plays with the storyline in such a way that it actually makes it an incredibly interesting look into what being a cam girl's like. And it doesn't just look at it as all good or all bad or all sexual or all gross. It's got multitudes to it. And I really respect that. And I was very surprised that that was the case with this film, because horror is not known to be that great with women. It can be, especially when you have a lot of male voices doing these kind of films. And I know that, I'm sure you did as well, but the writer of this is a former cam girl. So
yeah,
Mazea is a former cam girl who, you can see that. You can totally see that whoever wrote this film has empathy towards women who are in this line of work, and she just gets it. So as my initial thoughts, I was pleasantly surprised. Was it scary? Yeah, I mean, the concept of it was scary, I think.
Well, the stolen identity
Yeah,
aspect of.
Black Mirror-y, kind of like stolen identity. But anyway, I will stop there for now. What did you think?
What did I think? I think we're going to have slightly different opinions on this film.
Yeah.
So I like the concept. I thought the concept was pretty good, and so right now I don't feel so guilty about suggesting this movie
No.
since you liked it. Okay,
Yeah.
because when I came out of this film, I found the whole thing to be a bit what's the word you exploitative.
Mm.
And I didn't particularly think it was very deep or anything. I couldn't see the layers, but it might
Mm.
just be because maybe it's because I'm a guy, and maybe there's certain things I'm missing or something, and that's fair. I'm not here to. I would never dream of arguing against that or something.
Mm.
But I felt like there was an interesting idea here, and from the point of view of this kind of doppelganger that takes, the main thing is the doppelganger takes over the Lola's camgirl channel, and locks her out of it and starts pretending to be her and wrecking her life or whatever. I just felt like that was a bit. I didn't like how that was resolved. I didn't like that it just turned out to be some kind of AI or something, or some kind
Yeah.
of I felt like there was a lot of breadcrumbs kind of placed in the beginning of the movie, like, and I honestly felt like it was going in a totally different direction, and I just felt like there was a lot of stuff that was kind of planted and then was just never used, and just I mean, I'll just go straight into it, but like, for example, the the girl that she meets in the shopping set in the store, who works in the store, Katie, I think
Yeah.
her name is. Like, she's like this kind of sweet innocent girl, or just, she just seems like a very normal kind of person, and I kind of felt like they were going to do something with her, but they
Mm.
didn't. She just kind of like came and went, like it was just entirely wasted. Nothing came of her. Even like the other girls that are her kind of cam girl friends, and the one she has a bit of a rivalry with, the one who tries to sabotage Alice's career. Nothing comes of any of, like,
Yeah.
there's nothing happens with any of these characters, any of these side characters. The brother, other than him being embarrassed because he got, like, his friends kind of were, watching videos of his sister. Like, just nothing came of anyone, and I just felt like I didn't find Alice a particularly sympathetic character at all.
Mm.
I felt like by the end of it, I'm really hoping you'll fill in some of the blanks here, maybe help me see it in a way that maybe I failed to see it in. But I felt like she didn't change as a character. She wasn't particularly likable at any point. I didn't really feel sorry for her at any point, to be totally honest, because she's very self-obsessed, self-absorbed. Like, the people that do kind of pay her any attention and are trying to be nice to her, she kind of craps on them. Everyone's just money to, like, all her customers or whatever are just money to her, even though some of them have formed these kind of weird para-social relationships with her.
Yeah.
And like, one of them's like, "I love you," I know that's a
Yeah.
bit creepy creepy, but that's the kind. I suppose that is what it is. But even by the end of it, when she does come out the other side, she's not, in my view, hadn't changed. Like she hadn't learned her
Mm,
lesson or anything. And maybe that speaks more to the addiction of the whole social media
mm.
personality thing and whatnot. But
Yeah, I
the only
definitely no. You go.
Oh, sorry. No, just the last bit was the only bit I did feel sorry for her and kind of like really felt bad for her were when she reported the incident to the police about the stolen identity thing, and then the police, rather than investigating it, they kind of started asking her questions about her adult work, like
Yeah,
her cam girl work, and I thought that was inappropriate. So at that point, I felt like no, I do. She's being mistreated here,
yeah.
despite her character. Like, so yeah, that was just my kind of initial kind of view of it.
Yeah. And actually, I agree with 90% of what you've just said because as a concept and the way that they treat cam girls, I do like. And I think that's where we might disagree. But the rest of it, I totally agree with. The film itself, when you take away the fact that the way that they treat the idea of the character as being, in my view, quite good,
Yeah.
you are completely right that it's so many of these films that we've reviewed. We've said that the first half builds so much tension and then the second half they just don't know what to do with it. And this is another one of those. And it's even more, I think, frustrating when it was a really good idea and they've squandered it in a way. Like I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah.
what the result of it could have been, but it being an unknown AI of some sort and that she just gets her account back and logs it out feels so much like the ball has been dropped on what it could have been. And I don't know why films run out of steam by the second half. I don't know why nobody has taken a step back and been like, where's the through line? Like
Yeah.
throughout this whole thing. And like you said, where are we picking up these characters that we've seen before? And I guess, I mean, some of them I think are there for the sake of the cam narrative. So I think the brothers' role
Mm.
in this is just to show, in my view, that it affects a family in a
Sure,
very
sure,
sensitive
sure.
way. And like that's his role in this is to show that side. And
Yeah.
maybe like I completely agree with you about the rivalry of the other cam girl because that felt like it was, I think her name was Baby Girl or something like that, that those two had a storyline going and then it just kind of didn't, and it's frustrating.
Yeah.
I think that when it comes to her likability and the fact that she didn't change by the end of the film, I actually appreciated the fact that she didn't change
Oh, really?
because I think it would have given us the opposite message as to what the screenwriter would have wanted if the message would have been that she realizes that she shouldn't be camming anymore and she goes on to do something else. I think the message here is that she wasn't, this is a career that somebody can choose to do and they should be able to continue to do it
Sure, sure.
even in these situations, and that she should have had some personal growth. Yes.
Yeah, that's what that's
Yeah.
probably more where I'm coming or trying to
Yeah,
get to.
like because we never see her kind of realize how, I guess, fragile the job is, that you literally could get locked out of your account and the site isn't going to do anything about it. And it's quite similar to how I feel about YouTubers in a sense of like where there are YouTubers that put all of their eggs into the YouTube basket, and then there was, what was it called, the adpocalypse a few years ago where
Yeah.
people had just lost so much money because YouTube had decided to change its terms of service and therefore you
Yeah.
just could not get the AdSense that you could before. And it feels really scary to be in that situation. It feels like she should have, I don't know, diversified what she did a little bit by the end of being like, don't just do this. But I think that her character isn't necessarily supposed to be overly likable, or, well, then again, I think I did really feel for her throughout the film. I think I did feel like she was quite shallow and all she wanted was that number one spot because she essentially just wanted more money. She wanted more fame, and that's not really a reason to do these things.
No.
But I did feel really sorry for her when she lost control of that one thing that was hers. And you think about it in like a business sense of like, you've built up your brand, you've built up your business, and someone's taken it away from you. And especially when they do the things that you felt uncomfortable doing, it's like, oh yeah, that's a nightmare.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. I think when it say, let's just take the YouTuber example, and we could just apply that to the camming industry, I suppose. But I think there's some, well, I suppose any social media really, like there's some people that will grow, but they will kind of step on other people to get to where they want to get to.
Yeah.
And then there are some people's channels that will grow where they kind of like they're part of the community, or they bring other people up with them, or they kind of rise out, the in a friendly kind of
Yeah.
community positive kind of way. And with her, maybe it's just a job. Maybe you are maybe being a cam girl, you literally are just pretending to like these guys so you can get tips
Mm.
off them and you can get money off them and tease them and string them along. And these guys are being gullible, thinking, oh yeah, maybe she'll love me if I pay her more money. Or so, I
Mm.
don't know. Or maybe it's just the part of the beast. You kind of, how long can you go pretending to be friendly to people, pretending to like people before you
I
end up
could,
losing a
yeah.
bit of your soul? Like, you just,
Absolutely. I couldn't do that. I don't know. Like if you could look back at someone's 10 years of, like, if they were a cam girl for 10 years, like how much they would have changed because of that, like forming real relationships. Who knows? I don't know. I've never met a cam girl. I don't know what it's like. But for me, I don't know how I could keep up that double life of like who I am in front of the camera and who I
yeah,
am
yeah.
myself.
Yeah, I've met a cam girl in real life.
Have you?
Oh gosh, yeah, I had no idea what a cam girl even was. Like, so I was on a holiday and there was like a bunch of people that were in the group I was with, and then got talking to them. They were all about 5 or 6 years younger than me. Got talking to them, and one of them randomly. So one of them was like covered in tattoos and looked really kind of glamorous, kind of really kind of trendy and whatnot.
Mm.
And randomly she just came out with, yeah, I used to cam.
No way.
And yeah, I had to kind of Google what that even was, and I thought, is camming like being a prostitute or something? Like, what
Yeah.
is it like? Then I realized it's not. It's literally just you're one of these kind of camera girls kind of
Yeah.
thing, and you get tipped and whatnot. And then just getting to know her over that time, like certain things started making certain behavior started making sense. This kind of, she wasn't a bad person. She was actually quite easy to get on with,
Mm.
and like there was nothing. I quite liked her. There was nothing wrong with her. But there was this kind of underlying melancholy there,
Mm.
and also just all the kind of hi, and like all that kind of friendliness just felt very hollow, and I couldn't quite.
Yeah.
It felt like her mind was in this kind of autopilot, but deep down she was somewhere else all the time. And I
Mm.
don't know if that was just her or if it's maybe it has nothing to do with the camming, and I'm just kind of projecting it or something. I don't know, but
I mean, it's hard to know, but it's interesting
yeah,
that you do kind of see that a little bit with Alice, that like the character in Cam as well, because she is in her social situations, she's still like texting, she's still in work mode of like
yeah,
texting her private clients or like thinking about the next thing that she's going to be doing. And I do think that you could translate that to somebody who just works really hard in their job. And I think part
yeah,
of the reason why we don't like it is because of the nature of it. But if a businesswoman who wanted to climb the ranks of the company and you stepped on other people's toes, and you were very ambitious, you worked all hours of the day, you did things that you might not necessarily be proud of, but you did it because you wanted to do well in the business, you probably would be seen as a, maybe not the best person, but a very has aspirations and works really hard to get to where you are.
yeah. But
And I
that's the
guess
same.
that's,
Sorry, cut you off
well, I
there.
was just gonna say, I guess that's similar to, this is a business. This is her business, and she knows how to work it.
Yeah, yeah. I think my issue is, regardless of whether you're a guy or a girl or anything in between, I think it's just, I'm all up for people working hard and being successful. I've got, more power to you. Do whatever you need to do. But I think it's just this kind of, I'm not a big fan of that fakeness or
Yeah.
and I think that's where that's one of, I mean, you meet people like that in real life as well, even in your day-to-day work or whatever, or in your career. You do meet people like that where, like, okay, maybe they have had to step on people to rise up the ranks. That could be
Mm.
confused as being overly ambitious, but I think there's a right way to do these things. Like, there's
Yeah,
a way where
definitely.
where you're not being a dick to other people.
Definitely. I think my biggest issue with this film is that the villain of the film, i.e. the
Yeah.
doppelganger, we never know anything about it
No.
at all.
No.
So like if it was a ghost, we have, even if they didn't explain what a ghost is, we have contextual understanding of what a ghost is and where it comes from.
Yeah.
They needed to do that in this film in order for it to make sense, because we have nothing to base our assumptions of what AI is, while we're still in the very early stages of AI, if that's what it is, like we still don't really know. Like we need something to ground ourselves in it. So they needed to do some sort of explanation, lead us there in some way about how it works, or who,
Yeah.
giving something about who's behind it, because otherwise it's so hard, like, to even put your finger on whether you should be scared of this, because like, is this something that could happen to us? Didn't seem like it. Whereas ghosts, it's like, as just as an example, it's like, well, it could happen to anybody, and this is where
Yeah.
it's like, I'm not scared of this because I'm not a cam girl, and I'm not going to be scared that someone's going to take over my Instagram, but maybe I should be.
Yeah, like the thing is, like, so if this movie came out today, or even if someone watched it today, the AI element would be very easily believable, because some
Yeah,
AI videos out there are terrifying, like how realistic they
that's
look.
just scary in itself.
Yeah. But I read that there was a deleted scene for this movie, which suggests that, or hints at, that an algorithm had taken her account.
But we
And
don't
why
know
that
that.
wasn't,
Like,
yeah,
do you know what I
why
mean?
that wasn't included, I don't know. Or they didn't seem to even hint at it at any point in the film that this stuff even existed. Like, yeah, like so another one of the breadcrumbs which kind of wound me up was, like, when they were talking about the the number one girl, the one who's right at the top of the
Yeah,
food chain, how it comes to pass that she'd died like 6 months ago, but her
yeah.
account is still going. Like, that never led to anything. Like, so are they saying that all the girls that get taken over by these doppelgangers, because there's a few of them, it turns out there's like four of them or
Yeah.
something, that are all like just these kind of AI doppelgangers. Like, do they need to kill the original to take over, or do they only take over when the original has died, or like what's the correlation here? Like, there was no
Exactly.
connection. There was, like, I thought,
And what's the
oh,
point as well? Like, what's the point in it? Okay, they've taken over the campsite. I mean, it's not spreading. It's not like coming out of that. If you just don't log on to freegirlslive.com, it's not a threat of any kind.
no, and or yeah, exactly. Or maybe they could have explained, I don't know, that the company behind it, if one of their top girls has passed away or left the site, they end up recycling their old footage or using AI to augment it into new footage, just so they can kind of keep their revenue streams.
Yeah.
Because she'd mentioned earlier on in this film that the company takes half of her money.
Mm.
So I thought maybe is there some kind of connection there? Is there some, but there was nothing. It just kind of led to nowhere. I think that was my main issue. They planted a lot of interesting ideas that are in the first, like, half of the movie, but
I really wanted the villain to be a kind of somebody who was a hacker who was opposed to Cam's. So I thought it was
yeah,
leading to, when there were a few of Alice's men
yeah,
who were like
the
really
customers,
fawning
yeah,
over her customers, were like fawning over her, sending her gifts, like physical
Barney and
gifts. They're like,
Arnold, yeah.
yeah. And they came across as, a bit desperate, bit, alone in their basement kind of thing. I thought it was going to go kind of more towards that there was a disgruntled person who was a tech guy, and he had overtaken it, and he was trying to embarrass Alice, or make it to the point where she couldn't cam anymore. And it was all about the kind of influence and power that men think they have over women by trying to force them to do things that they don't want to. In this case, it would be like through AI or through
Yeah.
CGI or whatever. And then that would have told a story about how controlling that kind of person can be, and that they don't want to see you be successful, and they'll do anything they can to stop it. And then maybe she realizes that, and finds a really ingenious way to actually show that she's in control, and it's not these men. Like, that would have been a really cool film. But yeah.
Yeah, I can see. I can totally see where you're coming with this, and I do agree with you. Like, maybe that could have been, well, that would have been better than what they gave us. I think, but there's no. It just feels like the way this movie's put together. There's no winners. There's no one
Yeah.
wins. Like, no one comes out on top in the story. Like, I just feel like maybe if the script was in the hands of a better writer, there could have been like the message of female empowerment or whatever could have been a bit stronger or a bit clearer. But there was no. I think my main issue is I just didn't connect to the character. I was never rooting for her at any point. And to me, like, maybe if I was 15 or something, like, the nudity or whatever would have done it for me. I don't know, but like, I just felt like it was all very pointless. It was just kind of, it didn't. I just don't think it was executed well. And I think I mean, there was nothing wrong with the acting. I thought the main girl, what's her name, Madeline Brewer. I thought
Madeline Brewer, yeah.
like I've never seen her in anything before. Like, I thought she was pretty good. Like, she's not, she was she performed what she was given well, I thought, but she just wasn't. I didn't like her. Like, I didn't. There was nothing about her personality or or her journey in general, and I don't think it has anything to do with the camming. I mean, replace the camming with, I don't know, her gambling, or I don't know
Yeah.
what's the equivalent. Like, she's, even if she was just an Instagram influencer, for
Mm,
example, like, there was nothing. She just wasn't likable to me. Like, there was
mm.
nothing about her journey. What did she do for
That you
anybody?
wanted to root. You don't want to root for her because there's nothing
What
to root for.
what was her goal in the film? Like,
Mm,
what was she, what was the hill that she was trying to climb? Like, what's at the
mm,
end? Like, as a character, like, her personality didn't really change. Like, she didn't learn anything other than just hitting the reset of starting from. But
mm.
is this about, oh, we all get knocked down, all you got to do is dust yourself off and start your journey again from
It
scratch?
kind
Oh,
of
you can
feels
do
like
it,
that. It kind of feels like that. It's like dust yourself on, keep calm, carry on, you know.
Maybe, yeah,
I feel
yeah,
like it would have been better if it ended with her like locking the account and not having that final scene where we see that she's gone back to camming. Not because she's gone back to camming, but just because then you don't know what she does next. Like, it's up to her to decide whether she's going to go back. And then yes, you don't see the personal growth, but you also don't know that it doesn't exist. If you know what I mean. It leaves
yeah.
it ambiguous because yeah, it does end with like, and everything's fine again because she's doing the same thing as what she was doing before, and goodbye.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some I read on line. This isn't my idea, so I can't take any credit for it. But someone wrote something about the movie sums up like the addiction of social media or something, and how even her name in the movie is Alice, but her character name or her fake social media name is Lola, and then when she starts again, it just becomes, I forget what the new name. She starts has a new name at the end,
Mm,
and how people seem to be more concerned about their online avatar rather than
mm,
who they are and their personal relationships in real life, and how they're addicted to it. Like,
mm,
and I think somebody else wrote something like, we dish out so much information, so much personal information to these social media companies, and they can use it against you at any point. They can
mm.
hold you to ransom, but we don't, but we still willingly volunteer all that information no matter
Yeah.
what, like mindless zombies or whatever. But
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think I probably have a bit more sympathy for her than you do because I kind of put myself in the situation of like, what if somebody just started impersonating me in my work? So, like, if a
yeah,
Zoom call started and it wasn't actually me and I could see
yeah,
it, but I wasn't, and it wasn't me, that would be absolutely terrifying.
it would be, yeah.
You get, and I think that's the only way I could potentially relate to her is that you just lose control to no fault of your own. You know, she wasn't careless with her passwords, and she wasn't doing anything that the other cam girls weren't doing. And I think that comes through in her conversations with the others, is the frustration that it's happening to her, like, why her, kind of thing, which is what anybody would think, I think, in that situation. It's like, why have I been hacked, or why has it happened to me? And like you said, her conversations with the cam site and with the police, nobody takes her seriously. And I mean, because it's a bit of a fantastical thing that's happened, it's kind of like, okay, well, yeah, they wouldn't take you seriously because you are alive. They would never think, oh, it's an AI, you know. So I get that it's not entirely believable that they're in the wrong for thinking that. But I did feel moments of sympathy for her. And yes, I didn't particularly like her character, but I think the idea of what happened was like scary in its own sense of like, if this could happen, that's terrifying. But
Yeah,
it doesn't finish with, I'm rooting for this person to continue doing whatever it was. Like you say, it doesn't have to be camming, it could be whatever she was doing, because her main goal is to get to number one, which is to make more money. Okay, that's not really a reason why we care that you get to number one. If she was going to get to number one because something happens if you get there, like, I don't know, she would be able to pay for a treatment. This is really cringy, but like, pay for a treatment of her for her mum, or like, you know, something is the reason that's pushing her to do it. You would be like, oh no, you want her to get there, but it's just doing it for the sake of doing it. I'm not really sure why we're rooting for her.
yeah. So as you were saying earlier, like how you felt sorry for her when, like, imagine if you're on a Zoom call and then you see yourself like that. That in itself is quite terrifying. Like that, if that happened to anybody. So if the movie was, oh, Celia, who goes to her office job, she's fairly pleasant to everybody, and suddenly this happens to her. I would feel more empathy and sympathy for your
Mm,
character because you're just a decent person.
mm,
Like not like yeah, and it's I think there was one line in the film that killed it for me, and it happened really early on in the film. She says something like she's talking to her cam gang or whatever, her viewers, and they keep tipping her like thousands or hundreds and hundreds of tokens. I don't even know what the value of these tokens are, if it's like $1 per token or something like that. And then she says something like she's there kind of wiggling around in front of them, and she's like telling them, yeah guys, we worked so hard. And I think that's when she cracked the top 50. And that line, I was thinking, what? Like,
mm.
it's just
The disconnect. Yeah.
yeah, like they. I mean, yeah, all right, yeah. But if you're a cam girl, I'm sure there is an element of working hard, like preparing your set, preparing your time, preparing the event you're going to live stream, and I'm sure there is a bit of you do need guts to do that kind of stuff because I couldn't do it. I don't have the guts to do it, and I'm not brave like how someone like her would have to be. But it's just, yeah, I don't know, I just couldn't connect. I could not. I
Yeah.
was not rooting for her.
I think that's fine. I think not every film hits it on the mark. I think I appreciate the way that this film portrays her as a multidimensional person. She's not fully bad, but she's not fully good. That she is probably more normal than other people in films because she isn't polished.
True,
So
yeah.
like she is quite selfish
Yeah.
and she does do things that the normal person maybe or what we would perceive a normal person in a film doing, but maybe that is more true to life. Maybe that is what somebody's like when you're not thinking about how they're written, that if their goal is to do something, then their world is very insular and they do it in a certain way. And I think that, for all of its negatives, at least this film didn't also over sexualize the cam industry or make it seem incredibly good or incredibly bad. It was at least what I would think of as an honest representation of what it's like to
Yeah,
do that.
yeah.
Didn't glorify it, didn't say like I don't want to do that, but it also didn't make it out like this is the worst thing ever and women don't have any
No, no,
autonomy.
no,
It was
no,
like
no.
it had a nice balance to it. And I guess so it reminded me of a Louis Theroux documentary that I watched about cam girls, which was so interesting and so informative about the lifestyle, and again did exactly what this film is doing or trying to do about recognizing people as multidimensional. This is their job, and they are, and the people that he interviewed were so different. Some of them were doing it for one reason and somebody else doing it for another, and I felt I had such an appreciation for the filmmakers doing it in that way. And I kind of think that's what they wanted to do in this film, but then they were like, oh yeah, but it's also a horror film, so now we have to put some horror elements into it. And I almost would have just rather it had been more of a documentary about what being a cam girl's like and leave out the AI doppelganger thing that they obviously didn't care about as much. And I think I would have really appreciated this film.
Yeah, I think that's one thing we can 100% agree on. If they
Yeah,
just made this a film purely dedicated to the camming, like the camming industry, and dropped the horror aspect altogether, and maybe based it on real interactions that the author had actually had in the industry, or some of the strange
yeah,
interactions,
which
like
could have been a
yeah,
thriller. It could have still been like a psychological thing about the way that it affects you and the way that you have these interactions that, like you said, are very intense but also online, and like how does somebody navigate that is really interesting. But yeah,
yeah.
maybe it doesn't need to be a horror film.
Yeah, there's something you mentioned earlier or before where you said maybe she was sorry, I don't know if I'm like just projecting words into your idea or mouth, but if she was camming for a reason. So if she was paying
Yeah,
for, maybe at the end the twist is she just she deleted the account just so she could pay off a student loan, that's some kind of comment on this is what society is driving people to
yeah.
do, or I don't know, just something a bit more where there was a bit more of a a twist or something a bit more. But yeah, like yeah, sorry, I don't want this to be an episode where all I'm doing is talking about why I didn't like this character. But even the way she treated Barney and Arnold kind of rubbed me up the wrong way a little bit. Because like with Arnold, he's just this kind of sweaty guy, like this kind of nervous bag of nerves, and he didn't really do anything wrong in the film. Like
Yeah.
he wasn't even stalking her. Like he was infatuated with her, yeah, but he didn't attack her. He didn't verbally abuse her or manipulate her in any way. If anything, it
Mm.
was the other way around. So, but he gets tasered by her. Like
Mhm.
he didn't freaking attack her or anything. Like he didn't do
Yeah.
anything. And with Barney, the guy, the big guy, who
Mm.
I kind of feel like with so it's made very clear that he is like this kind of queen maker. Like he's this kind of if he starts tipping you, you're going to go up to the top
Yeah.
10 or whatever. So like his kind of character and his motivations and his business or whatever, it's not a secret. Like they kind of know what they get. I'm not saying what he's doing is right, it's not,
Mm.
but it's kind of like it's not hidden from the girls like what kind of guy this person is. And she volunteered to go see him. Like
Mm.
he didn't Harvey Weinstein her, like like
Mm.
lead her under false pretenses or anything. And not but I'm not saying these were good guys or anything.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. But it was just everyone was using each other to get what they wanted. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I think
yeah.
that I think what has happened and the reason why it's probably missed the mark is that, and this is just one idea, is that they have tried to make people so real and so multidimensional that they kind of aren't saying anything. So it's like every single person is not good and not bad, and every single person has good intentions and bad intentions all rolled up into one, which is what like every human is. But when it comes to like a storyline, you kind of do need something to hold on to, whether you root for somebody or whether you don't. And again, I'm not saying that Barney needed to be a terrible character and be completely bad all the time, but they kind of do need to have some sort of yin and yang to it so that you do know as an audience member what the film is not necessarily what it's saying, but what it is making you feel. Because if you're just constantly flip-flopping between, oh, I feel really sorry for Alice, and then, oh, well, I don't really, because that's a situation that didn't need to happen, or this person didn't actually do anything wrong, it's kind of like, as an audience member, where do you stand? And
I think you might be right. Yeah, I think you might be right. I think yeah, it's I think the one character I felt the most connection to, and she was only in it for like 2 scenes, was the girl who worked in the store. I just felt
yeah.
like in her, she was more impactful to me in the 2 scenes that she was in, like where she's like, oh hey, how you doing? Oh, yeah, just follow me to this aisle. I'll show you where the whatever she wanted was. And the other scene was like, oh, can you take a picture of me?
Mm.
I just felt like there was more meat there, and a part of me did wonder, like, oh, is she gonna get dragged into this camming world or something, like this kind of
Yeah.
innocent little thing who's gonna somehow get dragged into it, and
Mm.
then I don't know, I just felt like
Maybe.
there's a better story in there somewhere, just didn't know what
Yeah,
it was.
that was the person you connected with. I mean, maybe it was her role, I suppose, could be to show how insular Alice has become within her like cam world. She's going shopping to buy things for her cam site, and all she's thinking about is how well she did that day on the cam. And then she sees somebody who's real and normal and has and doesn't have that connection with the normal person anymore because she is so obsessed with what she does. And yeah, maybe that's why you'd connect to her more, because it's like, well, that's actually somebody that I can see having a story and rooting for. I mean, yeah, I think we're in agreement. I think I probably took more from the nature of the camming, maybe, but I think that we both agree that this probably isn't, like, I wouldn't recommend this to somebody who's like, is there a good horror film out there about not camming, because that's really specific, but like AI or things like that. I'd say not this one, because it doesn't have too much to it. I think if I was going to recommend a film about influencing and the dangers of the internet, it would be the film that we watched last time, which
Oh
was
gosh, was it
it was the one about the woman who goes to Thailand, and
that?
she,
Yeah.
that she goes to Thailand and then her social media gets taken over by somebody else. Like, that's a really good, I thought, a really good narrative about the dangers of being online and the way that you portray yourself not necessarily matching up to who you are in real life, which is kind of what this film is doing a little bit. But it doesn't, we had a villain in that story. We had a villain that we weirdly were rooting for, and like it makes it complicated, but there was a motive there was something that to grab onto, there was something that we could follow through to the end, and this film just doesn't have any of that.
No, no. I think so. Earlier on, I was talking about how, or I was asking, like, what's her goal? Like, what's that character? Forget the camming, forget everything else. Just as a character, what's the goal? Like, what are they striving for? What are they achieving? Who's the princess they're going to rescue from the dragon, or what? Or like, what's the treasure they're looking for at the end? Like, what's the goal? And I think in social media, when you start getting views on videos or likes, it's like never ending because there's no limit to numbers. So you're
Yeah.
just constantly chasing this thing that's never going to end. And once Alice hits number one, the next battle is her retaining that position, because it's never going to end, because there's going to be much younger girls coming in from underneath it, and she will die before those numbers end.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing with
Yeah.
Instagram or YouTube. And I think it's just the vacuousness of that
Yeah.
in life, and that's the only thing I could think of in this film. Like she's chasing something that will never end, and never it was she won't stay young and attractive for the rest of her life to maintain this as a career. Like, I mean, that sounds really mean, but it's just
No. Actually, you know what? That might be what the horror is in the end, is that she does just carry on. And you're absolutely right. This won't last forever. And that's scary if that's something that, like we said, put all your eggs in one basket. And maybe that is the horror.